Hello, special episode this week. No guest, just me, Brandon Barton, talking a bit about a specific topic here, which is how do we make mobility better? And I'm going to first unpack kind of why am I talking about this? Why am I taking an episode to talk about this specific thing? So I'm often asked, what do you talk about on the Future Mobility podcast? How do you figure out who you're talking to, what you're talking about in those conversations, etc. And this, I'll give some background here. But also, this got me thinking down a rabbit hole, which led to me wanting to unpack this in this conversation. So the way I answer that question is, what do you want to talk about? Well, I want to explore in a conversation the intersection of three things, which is the expertise of the guest, the passions of the guest, and my own personal interests. And I start with the guest because I can talk to just about anyone if they're in this space and if they have some type of unique expertise and or passion that allows them to speak in a way that's different than others and to bring a new perspective within one specific area. So, and you'll see, I mean, sometimes that's directly tied to the role and the title of the person. Sometimes it's not. There's often some intersection there. But that's usually what I'm trying to unpack in the line of questioning that I'm asking in the rabbit holes I'm trying to dig down is where are these interesting nuggets to explore with a guest. So it starts with a guest, their expertise and their passion. Then there's this third kind of more opaque thing of, okay, what are my personal interests? So how do you break that down? Of course, I'm a human being. I have personal interests and passions and things that excite me. I also have professional interests, right? I lead a contract manufacturer, Edison, and as my day job, we're doing a lot of manufacturing, hard tech stuff. I've been in and around the transportation sector from an engineering side and now really manufacturing side. So there's a lot of aspects of what goes into doing that well and building physical products and manufacturing and supply chain logistics and running a business, all personally interesting. Beside that, there's the point of how do you make mobility better? So that is a personal interest of me. That's why I started this podcast, a strong reason why I started this podcast of how do you improve mobility? How do you improve transportation? And that's here what I'm going to unpack. There's the first question before you get too deep down there of, okay, what is mobility? This is maybe a separate topic that I'll tackle as a standalone at some point. I've explored, I mean, take a look at, I think, interviews with Larry Burns, the most recent one, Olaf Sakers, Laura Fox, Tim Papandreou. I think we explored this type of topic. I think there's something to accessibility. It's getting access to the people, places, things that enable you to have a fulfilling life when and where you want to get access to them. There's something about accessibility that matters there. But for the purposes of this conversation, and I think a more kind of tangible definition is it's safe, sustainable, effective, accessible transportation of goods and people. That's what I say at the beginning of the episode. It's still largely true if you look at the title cover, the cover art that I use. It has those four words. Just how do you make transportation or movement of goods and people? How do you make it safe and sustainable, but maybe as important and more importantly, effective and accessible? Like we have to move things for a reason. So let's break that down. And this, I'm going to explore kind of a thought tree here, which take a look at the show notes because this is probably going to be easier to track if you can look at the visual. I have a little chart that I've pulled together here of, okay, how do you improve transportation? And there's really two aspects that you have to focus on. You need to make better tools and apply those tools at the top level. And I'll unpack each of those. So making the tools. This includes developing new things and improving existing things. And talking more specifically, this is propulsion system technology. It's developing new propulsion systems, improving the existing ones. It's developing new fuels for internal combustion engines. It's developing better internal combustion engines. It's developing alternatives to those internal combustion engines with electric vehicles and hydrogen fuel cells. It's using hybridization. That's just in the propulsion system. You have full vehicle tech. You have assisted automated vehicle technology, connectivity, lightweighting, aerodynamics, and that's across all vehicle sectors. So it's on-road, passenger car, commercial, it's off-road, it's anything that's used to move goods and people. Think about aircraft, marine applications, heavier equipment, forestry, mining, construction, things like this. How do you make better technology and improve the existing means of moving things around? So it's baseline technology from component up to system and vehicle level. So there's a lot to unpack there. And that's where I think by default the conversation tends to go to. How do you make transportation better? Well, develop new tech, right? Because it's exciting and there's this cool work being done there. And so certainly that is a piece of what I cover. But more and more, if you look at where my attention has been, it's really on the second piece of, okay, assuming in the R&D phase, you have technology that is useful to make things better and to improve transportation. You need to apply those to actually do anything with it, right? So we're not, I don't personally get too excited about academic experiences or academic experiments for the sake of learning. Like it's cool. You need science, you need lab work to advance technology, you need R&D work. But what I get excited about is how can this new technology be applied in a meaningful way to enact and make some positive impact in the world, right? What I'm talking about in improving transportation, it's not better vehicles, it's better outcomes for transportation. It's the ability to actually execute the task in a way that is safe and sustainable, meaning that it doesn't have a positive or negative impact on people either today or in the future. So what we're trying to do is drive towards these positive outcomes, which means you have to take the technology and apply it. How do you do that? Well, you need to build the products, you need to build the companies, and you need to build the infrastructure to enable this. So building the products, right? This is the lane where my day job at Edison certainly is. That's the manufacturing, supply chain, logistics. How do you take an R&D, an idea, a concept, a proof of concept, and translate it into production? If you can't do this, you can't make a positive impact on the world. This is critical if any hardware-enabled technology, and this isn't just hardware tech, it's also software that's dependent on hardware as a vehicle to take it to the world. How can you apply that and build the products and everything that goes into it? So that's what you'll see me unpacking at times, like manufacturing, supply chain, logistics, and there's so many different areas to explore. It's a super complex area, super fun area for me, especially given my day job, but that's a piece of it. You have to build the products. You then have to build the companies. And this is where you might see some deviations from like the obvious mobility stuff in both guests as well as the conversations that I explore. That more and more, maybe this is driven by my personal interests and activities leading a company, maybe this, but there's more to it. You need to effectively run a profitable, sustainable business to be able to make the change that you're trying to make, especially to be able to do it on a long-term basis, which means you need to develop an effective business strategy and refine that over time, get access to capital when and where you need it, sell, have some way to create and capture value, provide value into the ecosystem, execute. So you need to be able to deliver on the promises that you make. And there's a ton that goes into that. And at an individual level and organizational level, you need to be able to lead. You need to be able to build and effectively run these organizations. And so you might see, especially over the last 6-12 months or so, like these are areas that I really enjoyed digging into. How do you build the companies to take a product and deploy it in the real world? And how do you do it in a way so that you can continue to do that and you build and grow trust and the ability to do it at larger and larger scales? So that's one aspect. So you build the products, you build the companies, and you build the infrastructure. So what are the business models for how these different companies can work to? How do we generate consumer demand? What goes into the story that people hear and believe and how that drives their buying decisions? Cultural norms, critical. And that's, I mean, to some extent, the media space in general plays a key role, but this infrastructure, this ecosystem, maybe is a better word for it. I call it infrastructure, but really ecosystem's probably the better word. With this business models, consumer demand, cultural norms, regulations, like there's a surrounding ecosystem that is required to enable companies and people to take their tech into the world and to deploy it at scale to make a positive, meaningful impact. And then finally is the actual infrastructure piece, which I guess is a subset of the ecosystem. Think about the physical, digital infrastructure, the charging infrastructure, the sensors and sensor suite for the on-road stuff, how we enable, I don't know, the roads that we drive on, right? Like the physical way we're setting up cities and driving lanes, the choices that are being made, and like this all goes into the ecosystem. So if you look at kind of the five, make better tools, apply these tools. Underneath that, it's develop new things, improve existing things, build the products, build the companies, build the ecosystem. That's what we need to do to make mobility better. Or at least that's my current theory. So if you're listening to this and you're like, hey, this is ridiculous, or you missed something, or whatever, like this is a working theory that I'm trying to make my way through. Like what are the most important things? And I feel pretty good about this. I feel like this that there's some merit here. I'm also confident it's not the only way to think about this, maybe not even the best way. So shoot me a note if you have other thoughts for sure, and I'd love to chat on this. But so when we talk about these areas, like that's where a lot of my conversations, both in the podcast and outside of it, is so how do you do this stuff? And sometimes there's kind of the surface level building. Sometimes it goes a layer deeper, and I'm talking about more skills and attributes and I don't know, things like complex problem solving I've dug into recently, which is certainly seen throughout here of how are you dissecting problems, deploying them. That's the only way you can build a big company, is to have that as a skill. It's communication, culture building, recruiting, hiring. Like all of these pieces are part of the puzzle for how we build a better mobility ecosystem. So this short episode here, intentionally, I just wanted to really share this framework or this model and get out in the world, get some thoughts. I'm like, does this make sense? Does this resonate with the way you understand how we do this? And also, if you know anyone who is exceptional in any specific area, shoot me a note. I mean, I have a backlog always, but like this, I'm always actively looking for world-class people to explore specific areas of this matrix with. So yeah, shoot me a note if you want to have me consider anyone. So as always, I really appreciate listening. This has been a lot of fun journey, and I learn more and more every time, and really enjoy doing this. So I appreciate you listening and your support. It's more to come next week.